I remember the moment so clearly. It was a casual night in October, and we were all hanging out talking about the wedding plans. At some point, I mentioned that I would be open to designing the wedding dress. It wasn't a big statement, more of an offhand comment, something like, "Hey, if you ever want a custom dress, I'd totally be down to design it." It was one of those things you say in passing, not expecting anything to come of it. At the time, neither Emily nor Jake, my friends and the soon-to-be married couple, seemed overly interested. Emily just laughed and said, "That would be amazing." But then the conversation moved on, and that was that. Or so I thought. Months went by without another word about it. The holidays came and went, and life carried on as usual. Then, in late December, completely out of the blue, Emily messaged me. "Hey, were you serious about making my dress?" she asked. I was caught off guard. It had been so long since I mentioned it that I had completely forgotten. But the more we talked, the more it seemed like a real possibility. By early January, we had officially started conceptualizing. That's when I realized this wasn't just a simple wedding dress. Emily had a grand vision, a two-piece ball gown with a massive detachable skirt, something straight out of a Disney movie, combined with a tailored jumpsuit underneath. It was a bold, extravagant design, full of intricate details and custom dyeing techniques. I hesitated, knowing how much work this would be. The deadline was tight, only about a month and a week until the wedding. But Emily was my friend, and the idea of creating something unique for her special day felt meaningful. So, despite my reservations, I said yes. I told myself it would be worth it. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. As we started discussing the design in detail, I quickly realized that this was far more than just a dress. Emily wanted a full couture experience, something that would make her feel like a princess, but also break tradition. The concept was bold, a structured, form-fitting jumpsuit, seamlessly blending into a voluminous ball gown skirt that could be detached for the reception. It was dramatic, intricate, and unlike anything I had ever made before. The more she explained, the more complicated it became. She had very specific requests, colors that needed to be custom dyed, embellishments that had to be hand-sewn, and a silhouette that had to be both flattering and functional. "I want it to feel like a transformation," she told me, "like I'm stepping into a fairy tale." I should have said no. The logical part of me knew this was an enormous task, especially with such a tight deadline. But I wanted to do something special for Emily. I convinced myself it would be worth the effort, that seeing her walk down the aisle in something I created would make it all worthwhile. I made it clear from the beginning that I had never worked on bridal wear before. "I can do it," I assured her, "but it's going to be a challenge. We need to be realistic about time and fittings." She nodded eagerly, promising to be available whenever I needed her. She and Jake had planned a destination wedding, meaning they'd be leaving 2 weeks before the actual ceremony. That left us with just 3 weeks for fittings and adjustments. Looking back, I should have set firmer boundaries. I should have insisted on a simpler design. But instead, I ignored my instincts and threw myself into the project, determined to create something extraordinary. I just didn't realize how much it would cost me. From the moment I accepted, my life revolved around that dress. Every free hour was dedicated to sketches, fabric sourcing, and initial pattern work. I stayed up late researching techniques I had never tried before, determined to make every detail perfect. The first challenge was the fabric. Emily had her heart set on a specific color gradient for the skirt, something that couldn't be found off the rack. That meant custom dyeing, something I had experience with, but not at this scale. I spent days testing different dyeing methods, trying to achieve the exact shade she wanted. Some attempts were too dark, others too light. Every time I thought I had it right, Emily would ask for another adjustment. Then came the fittings. Because Emily and Jake would be leaving 2 weeks before the wedding, we had only 3 weeks to finalize everything. That meant multiple fittings packed into a short time frame. Since I didn't have a dedicated studio, I had to travel to Emily's place for each session, carrying rolls of fabric, sewing equipment, and half-finished pieces across the city. Sleep became a luxury. I pulled all-nighters, skipped meals, and even took time off from my actual job just to keep up with the workload. But despite the exhaustion, I kept pushing forward, reminding myself that this was for Emily, that it was a gift from the heart. Each time I showed her a new development, she seemed pleased, at first. "Oh my God, it's beautiful," she'd say, running her fingers over the fabric. But then, inevitably, a criticism would follow. "But, do you think the bodice could be a little more structured? I imagined the sleeves being different. This part doesn't flow quite the way I pictured." Each critique meant more adjustments, more late nights, more second-guessing myself. But I told myself it was normal. After all, this was her wedding dress. Of course, she wanted it to be perfect. What I didn't realize was that this was only the beginning. At first, I brushed off Emily's critiques as part of the creative process. After all, a wedding dress is deeply personal, and she deserved to feel like it was exactly what she envisioned. But as the days passed, her comments became sharper, less like suggestions and more like demands. "No, this isn't what I asked for," she said one evening, running her hands over the bodice. "I told you I wanted the neckline to be more sculpted." I hesitated. "We agreed on this shape during the last fitting." She sighed, frustrated. "I know, but now that I see it, I don't love it. Can you change it?" Each adjustment required reworking sections of the dress that I had already painstakingly crafted. Some changes were minor, altering a seam, taking in fabric, but others required taking entire portions apart and starting over. Still, I tried to be patient. I reminded myself that this was important to her. Then Jake started chiming in. He wasn't involved in the design process at first, but suddenly, he had opinions. "Emily showed me pictures of what she really wants," he said one day, holding up his phone. "This is closer to what she meant." I stared at the image. It was a completely different design. "I can't just change everything," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "We're too far along for that." Emily looked at me, exasperated. "I just feel like you're not really listening to what I want." That comment hit me harder than any of the others. I had dedicated every spare moment to this dress. I had put my life on hold for them, and now they were acting like I wasn't doing enough. Still, I swallowed my frustration and kept going. I told myself that once the final adjustments were made, the stress would be worth it. But deep down, I was starting to doubt that. With every passing day, the pressure mounted. The deadline was looming, and I was nowhere near done. Any hope I had of a smooth final stretch vanished as Emily's demands grew more intense. "We need to finalize everything before we leave," she reminded me constantly. "Once we're gone, there's no time for changes." That meant no flexibility, no room for error. Every fitting had to count. But with each session, the changes kept coming. The skirt wasn't full enough. The jumpsuit didn't hug her waist the way she envisioned. The dye job, something I had already redone multiple times, suddenly wasn't as vibrant as she thought it would be. I was barely sleeping at this point. My days were a blur of stitching, dyeing, undoing, and redoing. I started calling out of work just to get more hours in. My friends and family barely heard from me. My apartment looked like a fabric tornado had hit it. One night, as I was finishing the latest round of alterations, I got a text from Emily. "Hey, I've been thinking, I want to add some beading to the bodice, just to make it pop more. Can we do that?" I stared at the message, my vision blurring from exhaustion. Beading? At this stage? The entire bodice would have to be reinforced to support that, and I barely had enough time to finish the existing work. I typed out a response. "Emily, I don't think we have time for that." Then, after a second of hesitation, I deleted it and wrote, "We'll see what we can do." I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was exhausted, frustrated, but still bending over backward to please her. I told myself I just had to hold on a little longer, just until the final fitting. I had no idea that was when everything would fall apart. By this point, I had lost count of the revisions. Every time I thought we had finally settled on a detail, Emily or Jake would find something else to change. "I don't think the skirt moves the way I want it to," Emily said during one fitting, twirling in front of the mirror. "It's not flowing enough." "It's tulle," I said, struggling to keep my tone neutral. "It's literally designed to be airy and soft." She frowned. "Yeah, but can you make it more dramatic?" More dramatic. After weeks of layering, pleating, and sewing countless yards of fabric, she wanted more drama. Jake, sitting on the couch, barely looked up from his phone. "Did you fix the waist on the jumpsuit? It looked weird last time." I had already adjusted the waist twice. "It's exactly how we agreed." He murmured, clearly unimpressed. "Well, I guess we'll see how it looks when it's done." It wasn't just the constant nitpicking. It was the tone, the lack of appreciation. No acknowledgement of the hours I had poured into this. No gratitude for the fact that I was doing this for free, aside from a little help with materials. I tried to remind myself that weddings were stressful, that people got overwhelmed and maybe weren't at their best, but it was getting harder and harder to excuse their behavior. That night, I stayed up until sunrise making the latest round of changes. My fingers ached from sewing. My body screamed for sleep. But I kept going because, despite everything, I still wanted Emily to love the dress. I just didn't realize that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. After 58 hours without sleep, I could barely think straight. My hands moved on autopilot as I put the final touches on the jumpsuit. Every stitch, every seam, every painstaking detail was done. It was finally complete. I snapped a quick photo and sent it to Emily, feeling an odd mix of relief and dread. The response came almost immediately. "I thought the shoulder band was going to be a different material." I stared at the message, my pulse thudding in my ears. I read it again, convinced I was imagining things. I had followed every reference, every sketch we had agreed on. The shoulder band was exactly as planned. I scrolled through our past messages, my tired brain desperate to find where this supposed change had been discussed. Nothing. I forced myself to respond. "We never talked about changing the material." Her reply was instant. "I'm pretty sure we did. It doesn't look right like this. Can you fix it?" Fix it. Like it was some minor tweak. Like I wasn't already at my breaking point. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Emily, that would mean redoing a huge section of the jumpsuit. I don't have time for that." Jake joined in this time. "If it can't be changed, we might just scrap the jumpsuit entirely." I felt something snap inside me. 58 hours awake, days of canceled plans, missed work, and complete exhaustion. And now, after everything, they were threatening to throw away half the outfit over a detail we never even discussed? I clenched my phone in my hand, my vision swimming. For the first time, I genuinely considered walking away, letting them deal with the consequences of their own impossible expectations. I just wasn't sure if I could go through with it. I sat there, staring at my phone, the words blurring together as exhaustion weighed on me. My body ached, my hands trembled from the hours of meticulous sewing, and yet, all Emily and Jake could focus on was a minor fabric detail that we had never even agreed upon. I felt the anger rise, bubbling under my skin like a slow burn. After everything I had done, all the sacrifices I had made, they were acting as if my effort was meaningless. I typed out a response. "I can't change it." "Not in the time we have left." Emily's reply came quickly. "Then we're not using the jumpsuit." Just like that. No discussion, no appreciation for the work I had put into it. It was as if the last month of my life had been disposable, something they could toss aside the moment it wasn't exactly what they imagined. I set my phone down and stared at the dress and jumpsuit in front of me. I had put everything into this. My time, my energy, my skills, everything. and they were treating it like an afterthought. For the first time, I considered what would happen if I just walked away. If I left them with nothing. No dress, no jumpsuit, no final product to parade around at their perfect destination wedding. A part of me felt guilty even thinking it, but another part of me, the part that was exhausted and drained and sick of being treated like an unpaid servant, whispered, would they even deserve it at this point? I had one day left, one night to decide. And for the first time since I started this, I wasn't sure if I wanted to finish it at all. I set my phone down, my fingers still clenched around it. My heart pounded in my chest, not from exhaustion this time, but from sheer frustration. How had I let it get this far? How had I allowed myself to be pushed around like this? I looked at the dress, the jumpsuit, pieces of fabric that had stolen my sleep, my sanity, my energy. For weeks, I had put everything I had into this project. And for what? To be treated like my work was worthless? To be dismissed the second something didn't fit their impossible expectations? My mind raced through the options. I could power through, finish the dress, hand it over, and be done with them forever. At least then, I wouldn't be the villain. But did I even care anymore? Or I could leave, walk away, tell them that if the jumpsuit wasn't good enough, then neither was the dress. That they could find someone else to cater to their last-minute whims. I imagined the fallout, the anger, the frantic messages, the desperation when they realized they had nothing to wear. A part of me wanted that. Wanted them to feel just a fraction of the stress they had put me through. But another part of me hesitated. This was a wedding. A once-in-a-lifetime moment. Could I really bring myself to sabotage it, even after everything? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. No matter what I decided, I knew one thing for sure. After this, our friendship was over. Now, I just had to figure out if I cared enough to see this through to the end. I sat there, staring at the dress, my mind blank from exhaustion. My hands ached, my back throbbed. And yet, all I could think about was how unfair this all felt. I had spent over a month pouring every ounce of energy into this project. I had sacrificed my sleep, my time, even my job at times, just to make sure Emily got her dream dress. And how did she and Jake treat me? Like a free laborer who wasn't meeting their standards. I picked up my phone again, my fingers hovering over the screen. I could text Emily right now, tell her I was done, that she and Jake could figure it out themselves. I could block their numbers, ignore the inevitable flood of messages, and move on with my life. But then, the guilt crept in. This was her wedding. As much as she had treated me terribly, did I really want to be the person who ruined her big day? Could I live with myself knowing I had left them with nothing? Or did I owe it to myself to finally put my foot down? I had one night left to decide. One last chance to either finish what I started or walk away for good. So, I ask you, would I be the asshole if I quit now and left them with nothing?